I looked up to the sky and saw the roof it cracked in two. I lay onto the floor until my body turned blue, and I waited for the sun to pass through.
So you said that you came, quote unquote, you came into your own, right? When you I'm taking all your words and I'm dissecting everything.
No, go on. I like it.
What made you realize you'd come into your own
Well,
as an artist, as a songwriter?
that sounds like something I wrote but didn't really mean.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I'm more comfortable and secure now, but I don't think I've really come into my own yet. I think I'm still learning things.
Were you insecure when you first started?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
About what?
Every possible thing, whether it was how I played, what I played, how I looked when I played, how I looked when I sang, everything. And now I am a little bit more comfortable with it, but I'm still insecure about those things, just a little bit less, I'd say, you know?
How did you ease that? How did you ease that transition?
I think I just worked really hard. There was no magic formula. The only real formula is working really hard on yourself and practicing and figuring out what's true and honest to you. I mean, as soon as you start to figure out who you are, and you do that through practice and work and reflection, you become more secure. But I don't think that feeling goes away for a lot of people. I'd like to think. I'd like to meet a person that's so secure with themselves. I want to meet that person. I want to know what they did. I want to drink their magic formula because I haven't figured that out yet.
Did you put up a front when you started to cover up insecurities?
I don't think I did. I think I was pretty open about. I'd like to think that I did, but no. I think I was looking for help. I wanted help. I would ask people that I trusted around me that were better than me, and I would go to them and be like, I need to be better at this. What can I do? I wasn't fronting because I couldn't. If you're not good at something, it shows right away. At least I think so. I knew I had something in me, but I needed help along the way, which I got from friends, peers, teachers, everyone, like my family, all of them helped me achieve the things I wanted to achieve.
Did you feel you needed a lot of affirmation from people to feel as though you could do it? You can make it as a trumpet player and a singer?
I think I got a combination of people believing in me and people being really hard on me. And I think that's a good combination to have. I had a lot of cheerleaders, but I also had people telling me, you got to be realistic if you want to do this. It's a lot of work and you have a long way to go. And I do well with that type of criticism because it means that I can do it. It just is going to be hard. I don't think I ever ran into someone who said, this is crazy, you shouldn't do this at all. I'm lucky. I know people have. And sometimes that can be an interesting type of encouragement because then you're like, well, I'll prove you wrong. Obviously, I have it in me to do it. But I was mostly surrounded by people that were pretty encouraging, but still realistic about how difficult it is to be a musician.
So you needed people on both ends.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
That's interesting how moderation kind of drives you in the end because, it kind of breaks even like that.
I think so.
Moderation even in the sense like you can't eat too much, but you can't eat too little.
No.
Right? And so with music too, you need like people to push you along and be like, you're so great.
Yeah.
And you also need people to be hard with you.
You do. You need people to be hard on you because you need to take a good hard look at yourself sometimes. You can't have people telling you you're amazing all the time because then you're going to stop taking a look at your work and trying to figure out how to make it better. If you think you're the best all the time, how on earth are you going to be a better musician? So, but then on the other side of that, you can't have people just telling you you're terrible all the time because then you will lose motivation. You won't believe in yourself. You need that encouragement. You need people telling you that it's a possibility, that it's possible to be a great musician or a better musician, you know?
Yeah. So you've achieved a lot.
Well,
In the at least, like, is it what you expected?
nothing is ever what I expect it to be. Every time I achieve something or anytime anything significant happens in my life, it never happens the way I thought. I imagine wonderful things happen. I imagine them happening to me. As a child, I would picture myself in these situations where I'd be performing in front of a lot of people. And I really thought I understood what that would feel like, or I imagined what it would feel like. And
What was that? Like, what did you imagine?
I just thought I would feel totally happy. Completely happy. Almost in the most one-dimensional way. I thought performing in front of a lot of people would make me happy. But now that I do that sometimes, it isn't always that way. And that is not to say that there are moments of sadness or moments of frustration. I think when I perform in front of a bunch of other people, I am in an alternate state, I would say. And it encompasses all of the emotions that I've ever experienced. So happiness, sadness, love, anger, irritation, annoyance. It's a very different state of mind. And I like that. I like that I don't exactly know how I feel as I'm performing. And I like that I'm not just plain old happy. But it was a surprise when I started doing it. In my mind, I was a little initially disappointed because I thought, oh, if you're in front of people performing, this is all you ever wanted to do. Shouldn't you just be happy? But no, and that's okay. It's actually something slightly better. It's a little bit more complex, I think.
Exactly. We think that doing the thing that we love will be equivalent of pure ecstasy.
Yeah, we do.
But it's not. And is that what draws you to performing? Is that it brings out these little... Does it bring out aspects of you that you did not consider? Aspects of yourself?
Yes, it does. It really does. It's hard to articulate exactly what it brings out in me because in that state when I'm performing, it's hard to remember even how I feel. I think the thing I didn't expect was how brave I feel in front of people in that state. I'm excited to be there. If not just happy, I'm excited and brave. I want to share. I am brave enough to share everything that I've worked on for many, many years. And that's something that I don't know if I experienced in my life as a human being. I don't know if I would call myself brave, but in those moments in front of people, when I decide to share my work, I feel brave. So I think that would be the thing.
What makes you share it? It's not conscious, right?
It's not conscious. I don't think so. It doesn't feel like a choice, if that's what you mean. I don't know.
No, it's kind of like doing radio. Like, people will just say things in the moment, and then I think it's brought on by a certain feeling of comfort.
Yeah.
And like a trust, but you don't really know me.
Yeah.
We just met. Right? So we're often irrational about our feelings about things.
It's true.
Maybe that's why.
Maybe that is why. That's
Because
so
we just
interesting.
feel like another, like, we're not grounded anymore.
Yeah.
And I think also people just really need to share.
Yeah.
We don't get that kind of, not with the culture, the society that we live in. It's not I'll tell you everything, you tell me everything. It's not like that anymore. It's very individualistic.
Yeah. That's an interesting observation. I think we do feel a need to connect. On a deeper level, I know everyone feels connected now because of social media. It's easy to say that everyone feels connected. But I think there's also a barrier there that we can't ignore. Like, you can manufacture your persona in social media. And, I mean, truthfully, you can do that as a performing artist as well. You're creating something. But performing in front of people is very personal. Whatever you manufactured, it's still coming from you, and you're right in front of them. So that kind of connection is difficult to replicate, I would say.
Do you ever feel vulnerable when you're performing and you?
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to be more vulnerable, actually. I think early on in my career, or even early on, when I was in music school, I thought it was the coolest thing to be just tough, almost be like a ninja about performing, like very almost businesslike. I remember seeing, going to the Rex, the jazz club in Toronto, I should say, and I saw, I forget who it was. It was like the old jazz lions of Toronto, so someone like Kirk MacDonald maybe, and Terry Clark, and I think they just showed up like 10 minutes before their gig, and this was at a time in my life when I would think that was like unfathomable to show up 10 minutes before a show and be able to perform at a high level. I saw them saunter in, looking like dads. Like, I think Jim Vivian, great bass player in town, he had like a fanny pack on and a windbreaker. And they just like walked on stage. I'm not sure if it was Kirk but I do remember Jim Vivian for sure. And they wander on stage, and then they play the most insane jazz. It was great jazz. And they were so... it was so solid and so strong. And they seemed impervious. Like, they were just doing their thing. There was nothing you could do that would shake them. And then I was like, okay, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to show up and play the sickest stuff ever and look like it's no big deal. And I still have that in me. I like that feeling. And I remember watching it happen and thinking it was where I wanted to be. But now, now that when I watch performers and as I do it more, I'm starting to see the beauty in watching someone be vulnerable and strive for something that they may not be able to achieve in that moment, but they're trying. And I want to be able to be more open about sharing that with people. Those moments where you're going for something that you're not quite sure exists, but maybe it is there. Like taking someone on a journey, that struggle. Sometimes watching someone struggle is beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I shouldn't be afraid to struggle in front of people. I don't want to suggest that you should go up and be unprepared and not know how to do something, like go up on stage and attempt something that you've never attempted before. But there are moments when I see people doing that are clearly really strong musicians that are allowing you to go with them on this journey to strive for something greater. And I want to do that more, I think. I think that's what I'm going for now.
There is I think with jazz, there's this liberty, right? Like, I couldn't do broadcasting and struggle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But when you're running your own group and you're playing jazz in, like, say, the Rex,
Yeah.
you can still struggle.
Yeah.
And be appreciated because of that.
Yes. Yeah.
So what are you still insecure about now?
Oh my God. What am I insecure about? I think That's a really difficult question. I mean, what I just mentioned is, like, I want to be more vulnerable. And I think part of it is acknowledging the things that you're afraid of. And I think for a long time, I felt really insecure about talking about love for some reason. I think when I was...
In your lyrics.
In my lyrics, yeah. And even in expressing it through my, like, trumpet playing or my writing. I mean, it's easy to talk about things that you're insecure about in terms of, like, your playing. Like, I want to play higher and faster. And, you know, like, that's... like, everyone wants to get better at the same things. So that's always there. But one of the things I found really difficult was really talking about things that were very personal to me. I think I thought it was too scary. I thought no one cares. Like, no one wants to know your struggles. No one wants to know. And love, for some reason, was something I was always afraid to write about or talk about, because at first I thought it was just cliche. It's like everyone writes a love song. I'm so bored of it. But it's not, love isn't boring. Love will never be boring. Yes, there have been millions of love songs written, but there's a reason for that. It's still worth talking about. So I think that is what I was insecure, and still am insecure about, is allowing myself to express those feelings through my work, you know?
So part of that is still, maybe you do still feel vulnerable, right? And that's why you're afraid of putting it out there.
Yeah.
Because you don't want, like, in the end, it comes down to the fact that you don't want to expose yourself.
It's true, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's scary. It's very scary.
No, I get that too. Even, like, off air, like, when I'm talking to people, especially, you just, like, don't want to share.
No.
And then what, especially, like, people don't probe, right, enough.
They don't.
And then when you meet someone that does, it's like, whoa. And then you just kind of, like, want to say everything that, like, you never had the opportunity to say to people in general.
It's true. Whenever I hang out with people, as a defense mechanism, I tend to ask a lot of questions. Part of it is because I know that it's an enjoyable thing for the person that I'm with. And I am genuinely curious. I am curious about people. But a part of it is me being able to not talk about myself. If I'm asking questions about you, then I don't need to answer any questions about me. So I like being someone that asks questions. But I really should take a step back and let people ask me questions. Like in this scenario, you're asking me all these questions, and I can't believe I'm talking. I can't believe I'm talking about all these things. I cannot believe it. So I'm surprising myself in these moments because I so rarely have people ask me questions. Because I like being on the other side of it, frankly.
Hold my hand and apply some pressure. Don't let go till my body turns blue. I keep going to the same old places. Everywhere you smile for a while, 'cause you are what I want, and you are what I got. What it does to the songs that I don't know. I know, just show me where to go. I know.
Tara, have you ever been surprised when you wrote a song that clicked with people on a level that you didn't expect?
Yeah. Yes. I have, because you never really know how people are going to take your music. You can make assumptions. You can believe that people are going to get what you think they're going to get out of it. But I've had people come up to me and talk about some of my songs and say, "Man, this made me think of my sister going through a divorce," and the song will be nothing. It will have nothing to do with that. But I think it's beautiful that people find something that resonates with them, even if it's not what I initially intended. So I'm happy that people are finding something in the music, which is, yeah, I'm happy people care, really.
What makes a song click with people other than lyrics? What do you think? What makes the songs that have been very popular for you? What have made them so successful?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I wish I could tell you. These are the reasons why this song was successful and this song was less successful. In these moments, I think of the world as very random, because there are a few songs I've written that I feel so much for, but no one ever talks about, which is fine. And then there'll be songs I have written very casually, and then people will be like, "Wow, I love that song." And in my mind, I think, really? I don't know why, but I'm glad that you do. And then it does prompt some reflection. You do try to figure out what people love about the songs that you write.
What conclusions have you come to?
The conclusions that I've come to are the conclusion, I will say, is that people don't need to know how good you are. They don't care. They don't really care if you know how.
You mean technically?
Technically, yeah. I should have specified. I think people are just looking for something honest. That sounds really vague, but I think so often, particularly with trained musicians, jazz musicians, I think so often when you're trained, you feel like you need to prove to people that you know what you're doing. So you add all this stuff. You add a lot of extraneous material that shows off your skills. And oftentimes, listeners don't even care about that. They care about the thing that like feels honest to them. And so often, it's not all the fireworks that you think are going to impress people. You know? Like in jazz, you can play all the fast licks you want. You can play things that are harmonically complex. And there's a lot of value to that. But that shouldn't be the star of your music. You shouldn't be writing to impress people, you know?
Do you feel as though your most successful songs have been your most authentic?
I think so. My most successful songs have been the simplest, I would say. Yeah.
What do you speak about in those songs that resonates with people?
Well, it's hard to know what exactly resonates with people because it's different from person to person. But I have a song called "The House Where I Live" that has been very popular, and it's really pared down. It's just me and keyboards. And I think on the record it's an organ. And it's just a song about a house that's breaking down, and you're trying to fix it, but you don't have the tools to fix it properly, so you give up. And it's a sad song, and I think so often people get that. They get that it's a sad song. Because people can probably, maybe someone would be like, "Oh, it's so beautiful, it's so romantic," but it's not really romantic. I think people understand that it's a somber song. It's very simple. There's not a lot to it, but I think people really like that there's not a lot to it. You know? What's
a song that you wish had more recognition, that you put a lot of work into, that you're kind of like, dang, kind of sucks?
Huh. You know, I try not to focus on that, because if you do, then I think it just holds you back.
Bogs you down, yeah.
There are a few songs that I really love that people never talk about. There's a song on my record called "Swimming," which I love. I love that song. I love performing it. I love the arc that it has. It's a little bit unusual because it's not structured like a pop song or a jazz tune or a standard jazz tune. So it's unique in that way. So I think that's probably the song that I love most that no one talks about, I think.
Let's talk about your Juno.
Yeah.
I can't have a Juno-nominated artist in here and not talk about the Juno. Well, so you went to Calgary last year
I did.
because your album was nominated. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What was that experience like?
It was so strange. I should say that it was amazing, and I'm very happy that the record got the recognition that I didn't know it deserved, really, because we recorded it so quickly. It was like an experiment to us. We're just all friends. Me and my band members, we're all really close, and we played together in school, and we did it really quickly, and we just hoped for the best, and this amazing thing happened. And when I got there, it seemed like a world that I've never experienced before. It was just glitz and glamour and a lot of work, actually. It's a lot of work there were performances happening all week, and even though I didn't perform on the broadcast, I had to perform a few places as a part of the festivities. And it was exhausting. I had to do 2 performances. I had to do some photo shoots. I had to get ready and dress up, and I shouldn't complain about it. That's like a good problem to have. But I didn't realize how exhausting it would be to feel glamorous. It's exhausting. Very exhausting.
To dress up.
To dress up. Yeah, it's the first time I really, really, really have ever dressed up in my life, I think. Like, actually dressed up.
Was it enjoyable dressing up and doing the glitz and glam?
It was enjoyable. I don't want to complain about that at all, actually, because it was fun to feel glamorous, and it was fun to not feel totally like myself. I was like a hyper mega version of myself. I had put in all this effort to look as good as I could, and it feels good to do that once in a while.
To exaggerate your vanity.
Yeah. It's good to feel vain. I wanted to feel vain just for a day. Come on. We all do.
So when they announced the winner, were you there?
I was there. And I didn't win, which is totally fine. And it actually is fine.
You're not just saying that.
I'm not just saying that. It was fine.
It's fine now.
I was like, I was happy to even be there. Oh my goodness. But what's hilarious was I had to do a performance right after I found out I didn't win. So I was sitting in the banquet hall, and they announced the winner, and it wasn't me, which is fine. I keep saying it's fine, which probably means that it's not fine.
Is it really fine? Was it fine then?
I think everyone hopes that they're going to win. Everybody. And I could tell in that room, because on that night, for the actual broadcast, they only present maybe like 10 awards, and they're like the pop album of the year and like the bigger awards. And on my night, they had like quite a few awards, like R&B and rap, and then jazz and classical. And you could feel the energy in the room that everybody wanted to win. Everyone was nervous. Everyone was waiting for their category and waiting for their name to be called. So that feeling, I mean, I felt that. I felt maybe I could win. Because when I got there, I was like, I'm just going to have fun. But in that moment, you're like, anything's possible. Anything's possible.
Because it's like 1 out of 5.
Exactly.
And you flew all this way here and you're dressed up.
Yeah, I'm like, is this my moment? And then it's not, and then you have to move on from it. But you do want to win, and I would be lying if I said that it didn't matter to me. I think it mattered to most people, I think, in that room. And I was definitely nervous. I was nervous,
Did you dwell on it after you didn't win?
I had no time to understand how I felt about it because I had to go straight to this venue to perform for Juno Week. And I was literally carted off seconds after the announcement was made in my category. And maybe in the cab, in the 10-minute cab ride, I was like, okay, so you didn't win, but that's okay. You have to perform, and it's all good. And it was a bit of a release, I would say, to know the truth finally. It's like, okay, I didn't win, so I'm just going to acknowledge it and have this 10 minutes to acknowledge it and then have to perform. So, which was weird. maybe it was helpful that I had to do something right after, so I didn't have to dwell on the fact that I didn't win.
When did you get time to reflect on that?
When I got back to Toronto, I had a lot of time to think about what it all meant to me. And what was great about it was the whole experience felt like the end of a long cycle of work. Like, I think back to the very first song I wrote for that record. And then I think about the Junos, and it was such a long journey to get there. And maybe not as long as I think, but it felt like a long time, and it felt like a lot of work. So it was kind of nice to be like, okay, now like I've done everything I can do for this record. I'm going to start anew. I'm going to move on to new things, which feels good to do. It feels good to let go, you know?
Do you sometimes not want to be associated with like your Juno nomination? Like when you're doing interviews, like people are always like Juno-nominated artist.
Oh,
Because I can always imagine that being like kind of annoying after a while.
well, I think I just get sheepish about it. It's embarrassing.
Why
Because
is
it's
it
so
embarrassing?
Great. I mean, it's so great. It was so great when I found out I was nominated. I was so happy. But there is always a moment, for me at least, I speak for myself, and then I wonder, did I earn this? Do I deserve this? Am I good enough for this? And you wonder if other people question it as well. And so anytime it's brought up, Juno nominated, the reason why I'm embarrassed is because all of my insecurities come out. It's not because I'm not proud of the work I've done, and I'm proud of the nomination because I'm happy about it. I am. But sheepish, I think, is how I feel when I hear those words.
I could see it today.
Yeah, staring at the floor.
But you embrace it also.
I embrace it. I'm trying to embrace success more. I used to be terrible at it. Anytime something good would happen, I would, in my mind, think, well, something terrible is going to happen now. I don't know why. Or if I got to a certain point in my career, like with the Juno nomination, for some reason when I got to that point, I wasn't totally satisfied or I wasn't totally happy. And maybe I do that because I want to always be looking forward. I always want to feel like there's more to my journey as an artist. But sometimes you need to take time to enjoy those beautiful moments that come up in your career because they don't always happen. So I am trying to be happy about things now.